Welcome to Healing Medicine, formerly the Mindful Healers podcast.
This is the podcast for physicians and healthcare professionals who crave balance and purpose. If you want to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We are Dr. Jessie Mahoney
And Dr. Nichang Liang, physicians who bring decades of experience in physician health and wellness and leadership to the wellness conversation. Like so many of you, we felt the exhaustion, the disillusionment, and the weight of a career that demands so much, often at the expense of our own well-being.
In this podcast, we explore mindfulness, mindset, and real, sustainable health and well-being strategies.
Not as another task to add to your plate, but as a way to experience medicine and life differently.
Each episode dives into practical strategies, coaching tools, and real conversations to help you feel more present, fulfilled, and in control.
When we are healthy and well, we become powerful agents of change.
If you're ready to break free from exhaustion, cynicism, overwhelm, feeling ineffectual and stuck, and rediscover joy and presence, you are in the right place.
A life and a career that truly fits you await.
Reminder that nothing in this podcast is medical advice.
What are you proud of? A conversation about worth, identity, and redefining success. Our intention for today is to encourage you to celebrate and be proud of your successes, no matter how big or small.
How often do you deflect compliments? Do you feel uncomfortable when you think about what you're proud of? Is your pride often directed at others, your children, your colleagues, or your team, rather than yourself? Today, we're going to explore why so many of us, especially in medicine and other high-achieving spaces, struggle to own our own success and be proud. This episode has actually been a long time in coming, and my original inspiration for it actually came many years ago, probably in 2018. So in 2018, I was doing my original coaching training with the Life Coach School, and part of our homework was to listen to a podcast, and honestly, I don't remember the name of it. But in this podcast, the leader of the Life Coach School was talking about how you felt and what feelings you had most of the time. And one of the feelings that she really wanted to have was feeling proud. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I never feel proud. Like how I moved through my whole life and I never have this feeling of pride. And why is that? Because really I've done a lot of things that most people would think of as successful and feel proud of. And yet I couldn't feel proud. It was beyond just not feeling proud. It was like it wasn't okay and I couldn't own them. And so this is now something that I bring up with many people and has actually become a workshop in my retreats because this work around feeling proud has been so transformative for me. So then there were a couple of other pivotal moments. This pride thing has been carrying forth. So, I mean, gosh, that's 7 or 8 years. I have a dear friend named Kim Newell, and we were going on a walk together. And she said to me, you must be so proud of how you raised your children. And I said, oh, no, like it wasn't. And she, I was unable to accept the compliment. And the thought of like being proud about it, I could be proud of my children, but proud of what a good job I had done, which was what she had said. I couldn't own that. And she's a good friend and she called me on it. And she said, what do you mean you're not proud of it? And why are you saying that like, oh, it was no big deal? She said, you worked really hard at this for a long time. And your children turned out really pretty darn well. And that's not by accident. Why would you say it was no big deal and it wasn't me? And why are you deflecting this? And like, she's right. So now I do actually have a hard time saying like, oh, yes, thank you. Or but I've been practicing. And so now I say thank you. I worked really hard at it because I don't want to deflect their success. And their success is not just because of me at all, but I did work really hard at it. And I did make a lot of sacrifices and I put a lot of energy into it. And so why wouldn't I own that? And so, as I said, now I say thank you. I worked really hard at it. That feels honest and authentic to me. Um, and then more recently, and this was actually the true inspiration of this episode, at a recent retreat, we do this session on reflection questions and sharing and talking about it. And one of the questions on the list, and we don't always talk about it, is what are you proud of? But in this particular group, we had a profound conversation about being proud. And the key thing, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, is that everyone else had shared what they were proud of, and we had such a profound discussion. And then one of the retreat participants said, "You haven't shared what you're proud of, and we want to hear about it." And I was not at all prepared because I hadn't done the reflection questions. And so I had to pause and think about this. And my experience of this was just incredibly transformative. So I'm really grateful to this woman for calling me on it. And really, this podcast comes from that. As many of you also know, I spent a whole year working on being proud, which was my stretch word as part of my words for the year. And it was a radical and deeply uncomfortable situation. I was taught to be humble and not proud. And being proud was gloating, bragging, egocentric. And I was told that if you were proud, it might make other people feel bad. So you should go under the radar. We did a very early on episode about not shining, where we talked a bit about this. But I now believe, after exploring feeling proud for 7 years, and in that year, I actually spent a lot of time Googling synonyms for proud and was it okay to put proud on my list? And would people judge me if I did that? But my work on being proud has dramatically shifted my feelings of imposter syndrome. It's shifted my confidence, and it's really helped me to let go of this idea of not enough. I just am, by the way. So I want to dive into this question for all of you, a question that I think really does change everything, which is, what are you proud of and about yourself? Not your colleagues, not your children. But what have you done, or what about you are you proud of? So I'm curious, Ni Chang, what are you proud of? I'm going to put you on the spot, just like they put me on the spot.
That's funny that you're asking me that as I was doing this, because I was looking at your list that you're going to share a little bit
Yeah.
later about your truthful but stuff to be proud list. So the first one is that I recently had my 14-year cancerversary. And while the easy thing would be to say, well, it was just luck, or I thank my healthcare team for getting me this far, the truth of the matter is that like I had to work really hard, mind, body, and spirit, to be here. I mean, talking to you and sharing all of this on a podcast, and still alive 14 years after a really aggressive form of breast cancer. Um, from changing the way that I eat, changing my lifestyle, really unlearning a lot, and that's going to be a lifelong process. Prioritizing my pillars of health. There was a drastic reframe and shift in how I practice medicine as well because of my cancer survivor experience. So I have deemed that extensive journey that is ongoing to be something to be proud of. And wrapped into that, because of cancer, I became a much more avid practitioner of mindfulness in all its different forms, both informal and formal, such that I eventually became a teacher and have a separate business aside from my medical practice where I share what I've learned and teach other people how to embody mindfulness into their lives. So I'm quite proud of that. My former therapist calls it post-traumatic growth.
I love it. And you do a lot of speaking about mindfulness.
Yes, yes. So as part of the business, there's a lot of speaking, there's workshop leading, retreat leading, and creation. And yes, being very, very proud of that, both for one-on-one and for different sizes of various audiences. So speaking about public speaking, is that I still get quite anxious when I speak publicly, and I have gotten better at public speaking. I think in part thanks to this podcast for challenging myself to put myself out there in different vulnerable ways and to speak coherently most of the time when I'm podcast recording with you. So there I go, right? Like deflecting a little bit and using a little bit of humor to deflect that. But yeah, just also to call out that this is still quite uncomfortable for me. This is in my area of growth. Um, Tall poppy syndrome is quite common. Like you don't want to be the tall poppy to stand out and look like you're boastful or be judged because of your successes, and you don't want to have people perceive that you're bragging about them, that you have this big ego or something. But here's the thing is that the truth of our accomplishments and our successes and how we have shaped our identities, a lot of that is something to celebrate. And I don't think we take the time to do so or even give ourselves enough credit. The other aspect that I will share that I'm quite proud of is uncomfortably, very uncomfortably, something that I liken to cutting the proverbial umbilical cord of moving from one practice to a different practice because there were more and more misalignments that were happening on a systems level. And so I'm very happy to report that I'm in a medical practice now where I feel very aligned, where I feel valued, where I can speak up and bring about innovative ideas and challenge the status quo and not feel like I'm going to have some sort of retribution. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is also to raise two children, one who is my BC baby, my before cancer baby, and then my other one is my after diagnosis baby, my AD baby. And while that's also a work in progress, lifelong work in progress, I'm very proud of who they are and how they show up in this world as their authentic selves.
And own the role you took in that.
Yes, it
'Cause
was
it didn't
definitely a lot
happen
of
by
hard work.
accident.
A lot of hard work, definitely. And I have said this before to many of my friends, but I'll share with you on this podcast that breastfeeding was harder than chemo for me. And so I'm very proud to have breastfed my first child for as long as I could have. And I'm also very proud of the fact that I took measures to give my second child, who I could not breastfeed, not one little bit, because I had already had my bilateral mastectomies, but I took measures to enable her to have only breast milk for the first 72 hours of her life, thanks to setting up a donor. Shout out to Dr. Dina Bates for enabling me to do that. And that took a lot of coordination and sometimes a lot of bucking the system because there was no protocol for having donor breast milk at that time, now 7 years ago, being brought in this way. But I really advocated for my child to just have exclusive breast milk for those first 72 hours. Hopefully, theoretically, and you can tell me, Dr. Mahoney, about setting up her microbiome.
Yeah. I just want to point something out here, and I want to encourage you to keep on with this list after this podcast, because notice that once you start going just like this, you realize how many other things you're proud of. And all of a sudden, those of you who are watching on YouTube, maybe you can see her face, but you're lit up right? And it's this idea of just thinking about these decisions you made that you're proud of and the things you've done. It's when we can lean into it and own it, it feels so different. And we show up as this brighter, shinier version. And you are an inspiration to other people as well. And so while the idea is like this is boastful or that someone might feel bad, it actually can also make people feel amazingly good. And what if it was okay, especially for women, to show up this way? To encourage one another, inspire one another, motivate one another, show people what's possible, and literally just celebrate together, not from a compare and despair, but just to celebrate. And one thing I noticed in your list, and as I share some of my list, all of the things that are on your list took tremendous risk and courage. Changing practices takes courage and risk. It's generally not the easiest choice. Making changes in your lifestyle, it takes courage, it takes effort. So none of these things just happened. And I think so often we take them as they just happened, or when they turned out well, we don't want to make anyone feel bad, or we don't, maybe they couldn't have turned out well for someone else, or they didn't have the resources. And so then we don't own them. But what ends up happening is nobody ends up feeling better. Um, and so just this idea that each of us can do our own thing and be proud of it. And hopefully, with you and I sharing our uncomfortable but truthful lists of what we're proud of, and I do want to say it is uncomfortable, that we inspire other people and encourage them to make their own list. Because also, when you see what you have done, it gives you much more confidence to go do other things that will make the world a better place. Because most of the things that we do that we're proud of end up being good for the world as well.
So, speaking of that, the last thing that I will share, the most immediate thing that happened in the last 12 hours. So, I am a budding gardener, and we are going to talk in a different podcast about that. But I split my monstera plant for the first time, and there was a lot of fear around doing that.
Yeah.
So, I'm very proud of myself that as of right now my one big monster plant is now three different plants, and they're all still alive.
Yeah. All right. So here's my uncomfortable but truthful list that came up in this conversation when I was asked to share what I was proud of. So the first thing and the easiest thing that came to mind, because this was in the middle of a retreat, was creating this Nicasio Creek Farm as a healing space, making it happen and taking all the risks. There was many, many, many risks and things that required tremendous courage to get me here. And then I went to, okay, well, building Pots and Presents as a, small woman-owned business from nothing. Literally, I remember the walk I was on when I came up with the name Paws and Presents, and to see what it has turned into in 5.5 years, I am pretty proud of that. And that did not just happen. And I'm actually leaning into that idea. It didn't just happen. One of the things that I'm most proud of is trusting and believing in myself, which is something that took a lot of work on my part, a lot of coaching, a lot of mindfulness, a lot of intention to be able to trust and believe in myself. Um, and then the other one that came up is I'm actually proud of staying married for 32 years. That doesn't just happen either. Like I started thinking about that and working through my husband's mental health challenges and working through understanding that he was neurodiverse and learning how to make that work for us was no easy feat. I think so many people think, oh, you just got lucky, you met the perfect partner. That's not exactly how it happens. Um, and I am very proud of my parenting, how I did it. Even I will say the mistakes I made or the rebounds that I made from the mistakes that I made. And I'm really proud of continuing to be curious. My youngest child in particular is very different than my other two, that they're all very different. So not being willing not to say that I just know how to do it and to keep learning and growing, and literally learning from my children and being an ongoing learner as a parent of young adults, that takes a lot of practice. And so I'm leaning into it and constantly just deciding that maybe I don't know and maybe I do have something to learn and learning from my children. I'm very proud of that. I'm really proud of my public speaking growth. It was definitely um, a big step for me. I always liked speaking, but I kind of had a small vision of what it was going to look like. And I did a lot of public speaking at Kaiser with the doctors there. That felt okay to me. But to travel places and get paid to do it and have people email me and request, that's kind of something that was never in my vision of who I was or who I could be. And I always thought that I didn't really like drama and I didn't like acting and I didn't like being on the stage, but I do like speaking. And one of the reasons I feel so proud of it is because I see the impact that it makes. And the same thing with this podcast. Like, would I have ever said I was going to be a podcaster? Nope. But I'm really proud also that we've stuck with it for 5.5 years. This wasn't on my list. I'm going rogue here, but I am really proud. And I'm really proud that we have over 150,000 downloads. Like, who is that person? Who are we? That's fun. So, a few other things that I am proud of. One comes to mind because I spent yesterday helping my aging parents and showing up with love and grace for aging parents. I'm really proud. This is ridiculous, but yesterday I vacuumed my parents' house all day, and it took all day because it had been a long time and they are not physically able to do it, nor do they want someone in their house because they're terrified of everything. I would say COVID, but they're just terrified. And now it's so messy. They don't want anyone in, which is, I think, just the way it is for elderly people. They can't go around with a big, heavy vacuum. So I came in and vacuumed all day. And I'm really proud that I did it with grace and love and non-judgment. And I'm also really proud of how it looks. It looks so good. And I'm really proud that my parents are sending me thank you notes because it all just like to be able to do that non-judgmentally and proud that they invited me in and trusted me to do it. I've actually been asking for a few years, so somehow I got the pass, and I'm proud that our relationship has evolved to that. And I would say that I probably got the invitation because I've dropped all my judgment and because I'm just showing up with love. So, the last bit is I'm really proud of choosing to live an honest, aligned, meaningful, purposeful life. And I think that that is what I want to continue to be proud of because setting that as my intention has guided me to make all of these things that I'm proud of happen. And I am going to say that even sharing this, I'm like, oh, all these people are going to think whatever they're going to think. It's very uncomfortable. And I think it's just a beautiful thing to help people see what they're proud of.
So now that we've shared our lists, and as Jessie had mentioned, once you get going, it's easy to keep going. It's like contagious.
Yeah, feels
It's
so
like
good.
yawns, but
Yeah.
like
Good and uncomfortable all at the same time.
so this is our invitation for all of you to like write down your list and then also to share it with someone else who is also writing down their what they're proud of list and have that conversation because there is much to be celebrated and we don't oftentimes give enough credit to ourselves for all that we've been through and all that we are.
Yeah. And if you are not there yet, not in a judgmental space, but it's just too much of a leap to say, I'm proud of this, could you celebrate? What would you like to celebrate? What do you love about yourself? What might you not want to change? What have you done well? What difference have you made in the world? Tweak the question. Um, what contributions, what have you contributed that's valuable to someone else? But ask the question and practice asking the question so that you can get better and better at it. And for those of you with kids, ever the pediatrician, ask your children every night what they did they were proud of so that they are focusing on what they are proud of and what they have control over. And it is contagious. And then you'll want to do more things you're proud of, and so will they.
So we wanted to pivot just a little bit and delve a little bit deeper into why this conversation is even necessary, why we deflect and stand short, stand amongst the field of evenly grown poppies and not allow ourselves to bloom and shoot up towards the sky. So for a lot of us, it has to be about some cultural conditioning in there. There's a bunch of myths about humility, how humbleness and being modest about your achievements and accomplishments was a positive attribute. And there's also an inherent fear of being judged for being seen as boastful. And the other aspect that resonates with me a lot is, how was it like for you growing up? Like, were accomplishments celebrated or were they minimized? What were you taught about your accomplishments? So early on, at least for me, that I was taught to kind of fly under the radar, put my head down and do the hard work, and that's about it.
Me too. Me too.
But if we constantly continue to downplay our own worth and downplay our quite factual accomplishments, others will take note. And so if you value yourself, that teaches others to value you as well.
And be aware of what you're modeling for your children. Just like what was it like when you were growing up? What are you modeling for your children? That may also be the thing that gets you over the hump about leaning into some things you want to celebrate.
A very concrete example regarding worth is the last couple of speaking invitations I received. I basically received lower than my usual amounts for honoraria in terms of the offer. And so I countered with my usual honoraria request. And as uncomfortable as it still is for me to do that, I still asked, and they were both yeses. So again, highlighting that you teach others how to value you, and you get to set your own honoraria and ask for it, but you have to ask for it. So standing tall is not arrogance, it's permission for yourself to show up as your authentic self. And I also want to highlight for all of you that you are already someone else's example of success. Not that you need the external validation of someone else looking up to you as, oh, you're a successful person, but that is quite a factual statement that I just shared with you, that you are already an example of someone's definition of success. So taking a moment to look how far you have come already, right here, right now, in this moment as you're listening to us. The other aspect we wanted to share was about the term success. There's a lot of shoulding, there's a lot of societal pressures as to what success is supposed to be and what that looks like. But we invite you to actually define your own success. So in the past, I was very caught up with trying to fit into someone else's idea. Oftentimes it was a mentor or advisor's expectation of me of what success would look like for in academic medicine, for instance. But now I feel much more empowered and aligned in my non-linear trajectory and my non-linear and non-traditional career as an integrative pulmonologist slash entrepreneur. So I realized that a lot of this came from an ego appeasing, an ego driven mindset as well, chasing accolades and labels that actually didn't end up aligning very well with my values as time went on. So for me, not letting my ego get in the way of my own happiness is a lifelong journey.
So I want to encourage all of you to think about your own definition of success and actually write it down. And this is the success that is your definition, not what your parents think is success, not what medicine thinks is success, not what society thinks is success, but being really clear what you think is success. And that might be being a good parent, and making sure that what's on your list is also in your control. So, contributing to the world, or but let it be your voice, not someone else's, and let it be big and small things, and let it be the energy you bring, what you do and don't do, what you say and don't say, or who you want to be. I think very often we don't think about who we want to be. What kind of a mother would you consider being successful? And when you have this, you can actually succeed. You can also celebrate when you accomplish something that you want on your list. And so I think it doesn't have to be a whole lifelong list. It can just be small things. Or maybe you want to love and be loved. I'm thinking about the Charlie Mackesy book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, that he defines success as being kind, and loving and being loved. And to me, that's a beautiful definition of success. So thinking about it, taking time to explore it, is a really, really powerful experience. And we hope that this podcast has encouraged you to noodle around on that with kindness, and allowing the discomfort and the exploration.
So here are some reflection questions for you to continue to noodle on. What's your definition of success? Is there anything you need to let go of to enable you to find success on your own terms? And what do you need to do to own your successes today?
What are you proud of?
What's one thing you'll own more fully going forward?
What might shift in your energy, your presence, and your relationships if you stopped deflecting and started celebrating?
We encourage you to stand tall with elegance and grace. You've earned it. And someone else out there is watching, so grateful for your example of what could be.
We can't wait to hear what you're proud of. And if you have nowhere comfortable to share it, you are welcome to send it to us. We will be happy to receive it. And I just want to put a strong nudge into, if this is something that resonates with you and something you want to work on, to consider reaching out for coaching or joining me for a retreat, especially so you can sit down and enjoy the conversation and exploration with a small group of women in medicine. It's really fun. It's something that really can change your life and change what you model for your children, your patients, and the rest of the world. Thank you again so much for listening, and we would love some written reviews if you're willing to share how this podcast has impacted your life. We will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to stay on after the sound of the singing bowl for our mindful moment offering to practice.
Please check the show notes for additional resources and insights, and please explore our other episodes.
If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Please share this podcast with colleagues, friends, and family members. And remember, when you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change.
We offer coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, retreats, and talks. Visit healingmedicinepodcast.com to learn more.
Please note the content of this podcast is not medical or life advice. Always participate in our mindful moments safely. Welcome to this mindful moment offering. An invitation for you to close your eyes or lower your gaze a few inches in front of you, whatever is most comfortable. And bringing up something in your mind's eye or recounting something fairly recently that you're proud of. Anything at all, doesn't have to be something super big, can be as seemingly simple as remembering to engage in some purposeful physical activity for the day or another health habit. And holding on to that pride of having done that for yourself simply because it's good for you and hopefully because it feels good. Now, noticing the sensation of pride, and if this sensation is a bit uncomfortable, noticing that as well. Getting curious about sitting in whatever is here for you now as you hold on to this experience of pride, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. What body sensations are you noticing? Any other emotions that are associated? And what thoughts are arising for you as I invite you to recount an experience recently that you're proud of? Not judging the thoughts, not judging other emotions, and not judging your body sensations, but simply allowing this present moment experience to be just as it is. And if there's some discomfort, noticing that and allowing and accepting whatever is there for you, just as it is, being held in some self compassion and some kindness, and perhaps some curiosity about why there is discomfort, not trying to resist it or judge it, simply allowing it and sending the discomfort some compassion and warmth and kindness. And as you're ready, blinking open eyes, letting the light back in, taking a moment now to notice how you feel compared to just a few minutes ago. Thanks so much for practicing with me today.